Oops. Oh, I'm live now. Somehow, the lighting is even worse than it usually is. It's kind of an accomplishment in its own way. That's not better. Well, it's not the worst lighting we've ever had, but it's very far from the best. Oh, then it's spooky. But also I might set that shirt on fire. Let's try not to do that. Really isn't any kind of happy medium, is there? Returning a text. I really don't understand why the light is the way it is. Something to do with the webcam. Those eyes? No, that's a single moth. It's just unnerving, isn't it? It's like being under the sea. Well, I don't know what to do about that, so. Or this rather terrifying interrogation style light scenario. Hey, Danny. I forgot to put a tweet. But I'm glad to see that you're here. I don't know how to light this so that this webcam recognizes that I'm not under the ocean. Niobe's glaring at me. So, you know, everything's going pretty well. Right. Okay. So we got two people here, and I'm sure that you guys remember what happened last time on VILLETTE. I was actually just watching a thing on YouTube about some Instagram like influencers who use beauty filters in real time. And I thought, I can't even use a lamp in real time. They'll save so much time for me if it had a filter. But never mind. God, Niobe's just giving me the most filthy look, and it's because I ran out of dry cat food for her. She's been getting fancy sachet cat food, and for some reason she's pissed off. Like, it's not her favorite. Nothing much I can do about it apart from go to the shop, which, you know, that's not happening. It's not happening. Anyway, we're about 5 minutes in. God, I look terrible. I look completely washed out, very sick. My pupils are tiny. I can assure you I look marvelous in real life. All of this that's going on here, actually pretty good when looked at with human eyes and not a webcam that I think may be jealous of me. But you'll have to take that on faith. So, last time on Villette, Dr. John took Lucy to the art gallery and left her there for a while because she likes looking at the pictures by herself. She saw a big picture of Cleopatra and got very... I mean, there's throwing shade, and then there's whatever it is she did to that portrait. She eviscerated it John Oliver style. So embarrassing. And then Monsieur Paul turned up from the school. Remember the guy who made her perform in the play that she actually loved performing in? And he was like, "You can't look at that. You are an unmarried girl. You can't look at a picture of Cleopatra. Go sit in the corner and look at these pictures of miserable women who are married." And she was like, "Oh, okay, well, I'll go sit in the corner then, but you're looking at it. You're looking at Cleopatra." It's like, oh la la. And then Dr. John shows up and they leave, essentially. But there was a lot going on. There was a lot of subtext and text and secrets that Lucy's still keeping from us and secrets that Lucy's still keeping from Lucy. Oh, she was super attracted to the Cleopatra. And there was an element of humor. Like, it was a joke to her to be like, oh, I mean, she looked like she had a healthy back, so I'm not quite sure why she was lolling around like that on the couch. So she was making a joke out of it, making fun out of it, but also quite seriously like, I don't approve of this. I don't approve of how much I like that. Yeah. So, well, you know, it's just a comfortable bench to sit on that happens to be staring at the Cleopatra. Yeah, this book is way gayer than I remember because obviously I have a lot more gay friends now. Or, no, I don't actually. I have a lot more friends who know they're gay now. So, perhaps more insight into the sapphic or Cleopatric gaze. A-Z-E. Z-E. Good Lord, I'm tired. So we're at 8 minutes. Actually, probably will take 1 more minute of stalling because I did forget to tweet this completely. Like, what's this button do? Oh, that gives me a link to this. Great. Thought I was going to end the stream for a second there. I think Dr. John's got some idea that Lucy and Ginevra have something going on. Monsieur Paul might. Don't look at that Cleopatra. I will look at the Cleopatra. I will. Sorry. Villette now. LOL. Sorry, forgot to post. Link. There we go. Fantastic. Yeah, Monsieur Paul was Dr. John knows that they are both fascinated with Ginevra, but I think he thinks it's more friendship thing. Oh, okay. Maybe. Hey, Josh. Oh, well, yesterday we had some incredible exchanges between Monsieur Paul, who shows up out of nowhere to tell Lucy that she shouldn't be looking at certain paintings in the art gallery because they're of Cleopatra. like it's his business. And she was very, very sarcastic back. They had a little bit of back and forth. It was, he was like, "Oh, just accept that you're being told off." She was like, no. And then Dr. John turned up and took her home. And that was it. Mostly it was just a really long... yeah, I actually never thought about Monsieur Paul being not just annoyed that Lucy's so independent and English and Protestant, but that he becomes more shocked because of the play. Yeah. Yeah. That makes so much sense. Yeah, and then he goes and looks at the Cleopatra for ages as well. It's okay for him. Villette is the governess. That's Lucy. Her name is Lucy Villette. She's a detective. Anyway. So at the moment, Lucy is staying with the Bretons because she was sick. And now she's feeling better, but she hasn't gone back to the school yet. So, chapter 20, the concert. One morning, Mrs. Breton, coming promptly into my room, desired me to open my drawers and show her my dresses, which I did without a word. "That will do," said she, when she had turned them over. "You must have a new one." A new dress. She went out. She returned presently with a dressmaker. She had me measured. "I mean," said she, "to follow my own taste and to have my own way in this little matter." 2 days after came home a pink dress. "That is not for me," I said hurriedly, feeling that I would almost as soon clothe myself in the costume of a Chinese lady of rank. "It's pink. Pink. We shall see whether it is for you or not," rejoined my godmother, adding with her resistless decision, "Mark my words, you will wear it this very evening." I thought I should not. I thought no human force could avail to put me in it. A pink dress! I knew it not. It knew not me. I had not proved it. God, I love Lucy so much. That dress doesn't know me. You don't know me, dress. If you think I'm getting into you this evening, you are mistaken, dress. Pink. I knew it not. It knew not me. Yeah, kind of. For kids, like for little kids, but pink was still considered a very, like, soft colour for unmarried young women. Besides, we all know that Lucy loves grey. She's a grey dress kind of person. She likes to spy on people from corners and think mean thoughts about them. Who doesn't? My godmother went on to decree that I was to go with her and Graham to a concert that same night. Graham is Dr. John. She uses both names. Which concert, she explained, was a grand affair to be held in the large salle or hall of the principal musical society. The most advanced of the pupils of the conservatoire were to perform. It was to be followed by a lottery, or bénéfice des pauvres, for the benefit of poor people, and to crown all, the king, queen, and prince of La Basse-Cour were to be present. So this region of France has a king and queen? In the early 19th century? I mean, yeah. Doesn't matter. greys, muted browns, dull blues. Yeah, anything that lets you kind of fade into the wall so you can peek at Ginevra Fanshawe or whoever. Graham, in sending tickets, had enjoined attention to costume as a compliment due to royalty. He also recommended punctual readiness by 7 o'clock. About 6, I was ushered upstairs. Without any force at all, I found myself led and influenced by another's will, unconsulted, unpersuaded, quietly overruled. In short, the pink dress went on, softened by some drapery of black lace. I was pronounced to be en grande tenue, in grand train, dressed really well, dressed really, and requested to look in the glass. I did so with some fear and trembling. With more fear and trembling, I turned away. I think we've all been there. 7 o'clock struck. Dr. Bretton was come. My godmother and I went down. She was clad in brown velvet. Good call, Danny. As I walked in her shadow, how I envied her those folds of grave, dark majesty. A brown dress. Oh, if only. Graham stood in the drawing-room doorway. I do hope he will not think I have been decking myself out to draw attention, was my uneasy aspiration. I don't think anyone thinks that. I wish that were me in that shapeless potato sack. It's just so dignified. Here, Lucy, are some flowers, said he, giving me a bouquet. He took no further notice of my dress than was conveyed in a kind smile and satisfied nod, which calmed at once my sense of shame and fear of ridicule. For the rest, the dress was made with extreme simplicity, guiltless of flounce of furbelow. It was but the light fabric and bright tint which scared me, and since Graham found in it nothing absurd, my own eye consented soon to become reconciled. It's very relatable. Not to me now, obviously. You guys know what I wear. I suppose people who go every night to places of public amusement can hardly enter into a fresh gala feeling with which an opera or a concert is enjoyed by those for whom it is a rarity. I am not sure that I expected great pleasure from the concert, having but a very vague notion of its nature, but I liked the drive there well. The snug comfort of the close carriage on a cold though fine night, the pleasure of setting out with companions so cheerful and friendly, the sight of the stars glinting fitfully through the trees as we rolled along the avenue, then the freer burst of the night sky when we issued forth to the open chaussee, the passage through the city gates, the lights there burning, the guards there posted, the pretence of inspection to which we were there submitted, and which amused us so much. All these small matters had for me, in their novelty, a peculiar exhilarating charm. How much of it lay in the atmosphere of friendship diffused about me I knew not. Dr. John and his mother were both in their finest mood, contending animatedly with each other the whole way, and as frankly kind to me as if I had been of their kin. Lucy's experiencing the friendship emotion and she's not sure what it is. Someone's glaring at me from outside, but I can't see them. Our way lay through some of the best streets of Villette, streets brightly lit and far more lively now than at high noon. How brilliant seemed the shops! How glad, gay, and abundant flowed the tide of life along the broad pavement. While I looked, the thought of the Rue Fossette came across me, of the walled-in garden and schoolhouse, and of the dark, vast classes, where, at this very hour, it was my wont to wander all solitary, gazing at the stars through the high, blindless windows, and listening to the distant voice of the reader in the refectory, monotonously exercised upon the lecture pieuse, the pious lecture. Thus must I soon again listen and wander, and this shadow of the future stole with timely sobriety across the radiant present. Lucy never misses a chance to make herself depressed, and I mean, I think we can all probably understand that. By this time, we had got into a current of carriages, all tending in one direction, and soon the front of a great illuminated building blazed before us. Of what I should see within this building, I had, as before intimated, but an imperfect idea, for no place of public entertainment had it ever been my lot to enter yet. She's never been to a concert. We alighted under a portico where there was a great bustle and a great crowd, but I do not distinctly remember further details until I found myself mounting a majestic staircase, wide and easy of ascent, deeply and softly carpeted with crimson, leading up to great doors closed solemnly, and whose panels were also crimson clothed. I hardly noticed by what magic these doors were made to roll back. Dr. John managed these points. Roll back they did, however, and within was disclosed a hall, grand, wide, and high, whose sweeping circular walls and domed hollow ceilings seemed to me all dead gold. Thus with nice art was it stained, relieved by cornicing, fluting, and garlandry, either bright, like gold burnished, or snow white, like alabaster, all white and gold mingled in wreaths of gilded leaves and spotless lilies. Wherever drapery hung, wherever carpets were spread or cushions placed, the sole colour employed was deep crimson. Pendant from the dome flamed a mass that dazzled me. A mass, I thought, of rock crystal, sparkling with facets, streaming with drops, ablaze with stars, and gorgeously tinged with the dews of gems dissolved or fragments of rainbows shivered. It was only the chandelier, reader, but for me it seemed the work of Eastern genii. I almost looked to see a huge, dark, cloudy hand, that of the slave of the lamp, were not hovering in the lustrous and perfumed atmosphere of the cupola, guarding its wondrous treasure. Chandeliers are amazing. And if you think about Charlotte Bronte and her upbringing and that, like if you imagine the house from Wuthering Heights, and the low ceilings and the bullshit and the moors and how dark everything is and fucking Joseph's there. I don't know if Charlotte Bronte's actual life was like that, but if you kind of imagine that, and then you imagine this incredible huge hall that's just all gold paint and red velvet, it's just like, damn. I mean, in here it means the plural of genie, but I don't think it is the plural of genie because it's like not an English word. But Lucy means it as the plural of genie. We moved on. I was not at all conscious whither, but at some turn we suddenly encountered another party approaching from the opposite direction. I just now see that group, as it flashed upon me in a moment. A handsome middle-aged lady in dark velvet, a gentleman who might be her son, the best face and the finest figure I thought I had ever seen, a third person in a pink dress and black lace mantle. I noted them all, the third person as well as the other two, and for a fraction of a moment believed them all strangers, thus receiving an impartial impression of their appearance. But the impression was hardly felt and not fixed before the consciousness that I faced a great mirror filling a compartment between two pillars dispelled it. The party was our own party. I'm just imagining Lucy going nuts and like pecking, headbutting the mirror, yelling stuff at it, like throwing shade at herself because she thinks it's another woman in the glass, like a bird. Why wouldn't she? Thus, for the first and perhaps only time in my life, I enjoyed the giftee of seeing myself as others see me. No need to dwell on the result. It brought a jar of discord, a pang of regret. It was not flattering. Yet after all, I ought to be thankful. It might have been worse. Oh, Lucy. Damn, Lucy. You're always thinking like, oh, she just suddenly saw a big full-length mirror and thought they were other people. She'd be like, who was that beautiful girl in the pink dress that she thought wouldn't suit her? It was me, Lucy. Like, that's the Hollywood moment after the makeover montage. But instead, Lucy's like, oh my God. Oh. Oh God, that's what I look like right now. And it's so Lucy. And I mean, I'm sad. We've all had that moment and it sucks. But it's so Lucy. At last, we were seated in places commanding a good general view of that vast and dazzling but warm and cheerful hall. Excuse me. Already it was filled, and filled with a splendid assemblage. I do not know that the women were very beautiful, but their dresses were so perfect, and foreigners, even such as are ungraceful in domestic privacy, seem to possess the art of appearing graceful in public, however blunt and boisterous those everyday and home movements connected with peignoir and papilotte. There is a slide, a bend, a carriage of the head and arms, a mien of the mouth and eyes kept nicely in reserve for gala use, always brought out with the grande toilette, and duly put on with the parure. That's that vapid pink cake looking. Oh, it's me. I'm the cake bitch. The I mean, I don't know if they were beautiful, but they had really nice dresses on and nice manners, even though usually they act like crap at home. But when they go out, the parure is, I don't know how to pronounce it in English, but it's like a jewelry set that you would put on for your absolute best occasions, like a earrings, necklace, tiara, bracelet, that kind of thing. A set, Such fine forms there were here and there, models of a peculiar style of beauty, a style I think never seen in England, a solid, firm set, sculptural style. These shapes have no angles. A caryatid in marble is almost as flexible. A Phidian goddess is not more perfect in a certain still and stately sort. They have such features as the Dutch painters give to their Madonnas. Low country classic features, regular but round, straight but stolid, and for their depth of expressionless calm, of passionless peace, a polar snowfield could alone offer a type. Women of this order need no ornament, and they seldom wear any. The smooth hair, closely braided, supplies a sufficient contrast to the smoother cheek and brow. The dress cannot be too simple. The rounded arm and perfect neck require neither bracelet nor chain. Can't decide if she thinks they're beautiful or not. It's like, well, it's a kind of beauty, I suppose. With one of these beauties, I once had the honour and rapture to be perfectly acquainted. The inert force of the deep, settled love she bore herself was wonderful. It could only be surpassed by her proud impotency to care for any other living thing. Of blood, her cool veins conducted no flow. Placid lymph filled and almost obstructed her arteries. They are so very. They are so very. Okay, so Lucy's bitter because she had a girlfriend once who just was so selfish she could not love anybody else. That makes sense. Well, not a girlfriend, just a friend. No, a perfect acquaintance. Such a Juno as I have described sat full in our view, a sort of mark for all eyes, and quite conscious that so she was, but proof to the magnetic influence of gaze or glance. Cold, rounded, blonde and beauteous as the white column capitalled with gilding which rose at her side. Observing that Dr. John's attention was much drawn towards her, I entreated him in a low voice, for the love of heaven, to shield well his heart. You need not fall in love with that lady, I said, because, I tell you beforehand, you might die at her feet and she would not love you again. With most women, she is negging. Yeah, she's negging them and very, very deeply attracted to them at the same time. I think the negging is very necessary to her. I'm really loving this input, by the way. It's like, it's confirming things I think, but don't have the experience to back up, you know? Very well, said he. And how do you know that the spectacle of her grand insensibility might not with me be the strongest stimulus to homage? The sting of desperation is, I think, a wonderful irritant to my emotions. But, shrugging his shoulders, you know nothing about these things. I'll address myself to my mother. Ooh, Dr. John! Mamma, I'm in a dangerous way. It's a self-preservation tactic. Yeah, I think it must be. I mean, what's the alternative for her? She already knows that she's an outsider, and the entire culture not exactly set up to help her realize why she's thinking the thing she's thinking. Or not thinking. Or trying not to think. People have probably written some really smart stuff about this. Anyway, Dr. John is being a real bitch. Mamma, I'm in a dangerous way. As if that interested me, said Mrs. Bretton. Alas, the cruelty of my lot, responded her son. Never man had a more unsentimental mother than mine. She never seems to think that such a calamity can befall her as a daughter-in-law. If I don't, it is not for want of having that same calamity held over my head. You have threatened me with it for the last 10 years. Mamma, I am going to be married soon, was the cry before you were well out of jackets. Jackets being the little... She means since he was a wee boy, wee baby. But mother, one of these days it will be realized. All of a sudden, when you think you are most secure, I shall go forth, like Jacob, or Esau, or any other patriarch, and take me a wife, perhaps of these which are the daughters of the land. At your peril, John Graham. That is all. Mother doesn't want him to marry a French girl. This mother of mine means me to be an old bachelor. What a jealous old lady it is. But now just look at that splendid creature in the pale blue satin dress, and hair of paler brown with reflets satinées as those of her robe. Satin reflections, glossy hair. Would you not feel proud, Mamma, if I were to bring that goddess home some day and introduce her to you as Mrs. Bretton, Jr.? You will bring no goddess to La Terrasse. That little chateau will not contain two mistresses, especially if the second be of the height, bulk, and circumference of that mighty doll in wood and wax and kid and satin. She's saying this girl is too tall and big. Mamma, she would fill your blue chair so admirably. Fill my chair? I defy the foreign usurper. A rueful chair should it be for her. But hush, John Graham. Hold your tongue and use your eyes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. She keeps going, well, me and Ginevra Fanshawe would never be friends because she's such a dumb, vapid hoe. And I know this because I've watched her a really long time, very, very closely. And also, if she marries Dr. John, I will kill them both and then myself. I assume is the unfinished thought. I mean, she's trying to sort of tell us that she's in love with Dr. John, but I'm just not buying it. She just loves the friendship of his family, like being in that family atmosphere so much, and has convinced herself that that's what it is. During the above skirmish, the hall, which I had thought seemed full at our entrance, continued to admit party after party, until the semicircle before the stage presented one dense mass of heads, sloping from floor to ceiling. The stage, too, or rather the wide temporary platform, larger than any stage, dessert half an hour since, was now overflowing with life. Round two grand pianos placed about the centre, a white flock of young girls, the pupils of the conservatoire, had noiselessly poured. I had noticed their gathering while Graham and his mother were engaged in discussing the belle in blue satin, and had watched with interest the process of arraying and marshalling them. Two gentlemen, in each of whom I recognized an acquaintance, officered this virgin troupe. One, an artistic-looking man, bearded and with long hair, was a noted pianiste, and also the first music teacher in Villette. He attended twice a week at Madame Beck's pensionnat to give lessons to the few pupils whose parents were rich enough to allow their daughters the privilege of his instruction. His name was Monsieur Joseph Emmanuel, and he was half-brother to Monsieur Paul, which potent personage was now visible in the person of the second gentleman. Hi! Hi, I'm being blasted with light. Ah! See, that makes total sense to me, Danny. Like, I didn't know that it was a term. Yes, well, they've added a little E to the end of pianist to make it unfunny in French. Pianiste. French don't think anything's funny. They like being sad. Oh, Josh, you got to watch the previous video because the thing between Monsieur Paul and Lucy was... She was just shutting him down so hard, and it was great. Monsieur Paul amused me. I smiled to myself as I watched him. He seemed so thoroughly in his element, standing conspicuous in presence of a wide and grand assemblage, arranging, restraining, overawing about 100 young ladies. Compared? Sounds like something you study at Polytech. He was, too, so perfectly in earnest, so energetic, so intent, and above all, so absolute. And yet what business had he there? What had he to do with music or the conservatoire? He who could hardly distinguish one note from another. I knew it was his love of display and authority which had brought him there. A love not offensive only because so naive. Ooh, yikes. It presently became obvious that his brother, Monsieur Joseph, was as much under his control as were the girls themselves. Never was such a little hawk of a man as that Monsieur Paul. Ere long, some noted singers and musicians dawned upon the platform. As these stars rose, the comet-like professor set. Insufferable to him were all notorieties and celebrities. Where he could not outshine, he fled. I worked for somebody similar to Monsieur Paul for a while, and it was very annoying. Not amusing. Anyway, Evelyn, Lucy is at a charity concert, like a gala, and she's overwhelmed by how amazingly grand the hall is, and she's wearing a pink dress against her will. And now all was prepared, but one compartment of the hall waited to be filled, a compartment covered with crimson, like the grand staircase and doors, furnished with stuffed and cushioned benches ranged on each side of two red regal chairs, placed solemnly under a canopy. A signal was given, the doors rolled back, the assembly stood up, the orchestra burst out, and to the welcome of a choral burst enter the king, the queen, and the court of La Basse-Cour. I have no idea what kind of country La Basse-Cour is. Till then, I had never set eyes on living king or queen. It may consequently be conjectured how I strained my powers of vision to take in these specimens of European royalty. By whomsoever majesty is beheld for the first time, there will always be experienced a vague surprise bordering on disappointment, that the same does not appear seated en permanence on a throne, bonneted with a crown and furnished, as to the hand, with a sceptre. Looking out for a king and queen, and seeing only a middle-aged soldier and a rather young lady, I felt half cheated, half pleased. No one is safe from Lucy. Well do I recall that king, a man of 50, a little bowed, a little grey. There was no face in all that assembly which resembled his. I had never read, never been told anything of his nature or his habits, and at first the strong hieroglyphics graven as with iron stylet on his brow, round his eyes, beside his mouth, puzzled and baffled instinct. She means wrinkles. Ere long, however, if I did not know, at least I felt the meaning of these characters written without hand. There sat a silent sufferer, a nervous, melancholy man. Those eyes had looked upon the visits of a certain ghost, had long waited the comings and goings of that stranger spectre, hypochondria. Boring, never heard of your country, sounds fake. Nice to meet you. Amen. Your Honour. And that's how you talk to kings and queens. The spectre of hypochondria. Perhaps he saw her now on that stage, over against him, amidst all that brilliant throng. Hypochondria has that want, to rise in the midst of thousands, dark as doom, pale as malady, and well-nigh strong as death. Her comrade and victim thinks to be happy one moment. Not so, says she, I come. And she freezes the blood in his heart and beclouds the light in his eye. I would call that anxiety rather than hypochondria, but spot on, Lucy. Hey, I'm happy. Not so. Here come I, anxiety. Some might say it was the foreign crown pressing the king's brows which bent them to that peculiar and painful fold. Some might quote the effects of early bereavement. Something there might be of both these, but these as embittered by that darkest foe of humanity, constitutional melancholy. Constitutional melancholy. It sounds better than treatment-resistant depression. Constitutional melancholy. Something you can also study at Polytech. The Queen, his wife, knew this. It seemed to me the reflection of her husband's grief lay, a subduing shadow, on her own benignant face. A mild, thoughtful, graceful woman that princess seemed. Not beautiful, not at all like the women of solid charms and marble feelings described. Hers was a somewhat slender shape. Her features, though distinguished enough, were too dynasties and royal lines to give unqualified pleasure. The expression clothing that profile was agreeable in the present instance, but you could not avoid connecting it with remembered effigies, whose similar lines appeared under phase ignoble, feeble, or sensual, or cunning, as the case might be. The Queen's eye, however, was her own, and pity, goodness, sweet sympathy blessed it with divinest light. She moved no sovereign, but a lady, kind, loving, and elegant. This is the only woman Lucy has ever approved of in her life. And she's still, she's still nagging a bit. Her little son, the Prince of La Basse-Cour, and young Duc de Dindonneau accompanied her. Dindon is like a nonsense word, isn't it? He leaned on his mother's knee, and ever and anon in the course of that evening, I saw her observant of the monarch at her side, conscious of his beclouded abstraction, and desirous to rouse him from it by drawing his attention to their son. She often bent her head to listen to the boy's remarks, and would then smilingly repeat them to his sire. The moody king started, listened, smiled, but invariably relapsed as soon as his good angel ceased speaking. Full mournful and significant was that spectacle. None the less so because both for the aristocracy and the honest bourgeoisie of Labascourt, its peculiarities seemed to be wholly invisible. I could not discover that one soul present was either struck or touched. Maybe they don't care. Well, no, this chapter is like way long. My voice isn't going to hold out. We'll carry on for a bit. Now, I am just not sure what the deal is with the king and queen and why they're even mentioned in the story, but I'm sure we'll figure it out. With the king and queen had entered their court, comprising 2 or 3 foreign ambassadors, and with them came the elite of the foreigners then resident in Villette. These took possession of the crimson benches. The ladies were seated, most of the men remained standing. Their sable rank, lining the background, looked like a dark foil to the splendor displayed in front. Okay, I'm sorry. I can't, I can't finish this chapter. I can't actually finish the description of the king and queen's court because A, it's boring, and B, my voice is actually cutting out as I'm talking. So I'm going to, this is half of the chapter. So I'm going to finish the other half of the concert, very exciting chapter, tomorrow evening. And right now I'm going to have a hot chocolate to soothe the throat. Oh, yeah. Yeah. The Cthulhu Grannies. Any damage to my voice would be beneficial. Yeah. Thank you guys for joining me, and I will finish the chapter tomorrow. Thanks so much. See you guys.